Welcome, history buffs and those curious about the past. Today, we will take a journey through time. But don't expect only glitz and glitter. We will immerse ourselves in the heart of the Palace of Versailles, a place that in the popular imagination evokes opulence and unparalleled refinement. In the meantime, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are passionate about these videos. Now let's start. Imagine walking into one of the most opulent buildings ever built in the history of mankind. Halls lined with gold, chandeliers as bright as stars, and enough satin and silk to cover the entire earth twice over. But as you take a deeper breath, you are hit by a stench so pungent it could wilt a bouquet of flowers from a distance. Welcome to the sumptuous Palace of Versailles in the 17th century, a place where magnificence mixed with cruelty, elegance coexisted with filth, and even the highest noblewomen, adorned with diamonds and honors, faced appalling hygiene situations. You are not dreaming. Today, we will immerse ourselves, fortunately only in our imagination, in the incredible living conditions of aristocratic women at the height of the Ancien Regime. Here are the 5 most terrible hygiene habits of noble women. And no, you are not ready. If you were born a woman in 17th century French high society, you were expected to be impeccable in grace, charm, and style. But personal hygiene was another story. The idea of washing was viewed with suspicion. Science, at the time, believed that hot water dilated pores and allowed disease to enter. The church also added its weight, seeing the bath as an act of vanity. Noble women did not have private baths or take showers. Complete washing was rare, considered harmful or sinful. Only cloths soaked in vinegar, alcohol, or even saliva were used. Baths were taken a few times a year, and often as a family. A single tub was shared, first the men, then the children, and finally the women. The water was now dirty, cloudy, and cold, if there was any water left. The result? A pervasive odor that permeated curtains, dresses, wigs, and walls. Visitors to Versailles reported a sickly sweet scent that hung everywhere. But the ladies were only asked to be perfect, at least in appearance. The palace was almost completely devoid of bathrooms. We are talking about a palace with hundreds of rooms and very few toilets. The courtesans used chamber pots hidden under the beds or behind the curtains. Then the contents were emptied out the window. If you passed by the courtyard at the wrong time, you risked an unexpected shower. Many courtiers urinated directly in the gardens. Some relieved themselves in the corridors or behind the curtains. The palace stank everywhere. The situation was so serious that Louis XIV ordered the corridors to be cleaned once a week. Yes, only once, and it was considered an achievement. There was no toilet paper. People used rags, leaves, or simply their hands. Washing afterwards, a revolutionary idea for those times. Noblewomen sported hair that was up to half a meter high, decorated with feathers, pearls, and even miniature objects. To obtain these masterpieces, metal structures, horsehair, and lots of animal fat were used. This attracted lice, fleas, and other parasites. The hair was not washed for weeks, sometimes months. Women scratched themselves with elegant silver claws, specially designed to avoid ruining their hairstyles. They were fashion accessories as much as they were survival tools. Some wigs caught fire near candles, causing even serious accidents. But the priority was aesthetics, not health. The common women shaved their hair to avoid lice. The noblewomen, on the other hand, accepted the inconvenience in order to appear impeccable. A queen's hair, yes, but often inhabited. Literally, at Versailles, people feasted lavishly, roasts, pastries, fine wines. But behind the scenes, the kitchen was hell. Sewers flooded the areas where food was prepared. Meat was often spoiled, fruit was full of flies, and rats scurried among the pots. There were no refrigerators or modern hygiene. Cooks were forced to serve contaminated food. Intestinal diseases were the order of the day, and they spared no one, not even the king. Louis XIV is said to have expelled a 15-centimeter-long tapeworm. For the ladies, the meal was a test of grace, eating elegantly without showing discomfort. But behind the smile, many suffered from cramps, nausea, and infections, all to avoid spoiling appearances. For noble women, giving birth was not an intimate moment, but a state ceremony. The room filled with doctors, courtiers, and even clerics. Everyone wanted to be present to verify the sex of the child. The goal? To avoid mix-ups and guarantee a male heir. Marie Antoinette fainted during childbirth due to the heat and the crowd. Other women risked fatal infections due to the lack of hygiene. Unsterilized instruments, dirty hands, no antibiotics. Mortality was very high for mothers and newborns. The physical pain was compounded by the humiliation, exposed, observed, judged. The most powerful woman in the kingdom was reduced to a spectacle, and no one found it strange. The history of Versailles is not just that of a sumptuous palace, golden halls, and endless gardens. It is the history of an idea, that of an absolute power that dresses itself in beauty to affirm its authority. It is the reflection of an era in which every gesture, every architecture, every glance directed at the king was a political act. Behind the scenes of the great theater of the monarchy was a world of sacrifice, intrigue, and silence. The glittering corridors concealed the toil of the servants, the ambitions of the courtiers, the fears of those who lived constantly under the watchful eye of the sovereign. Versailles was a gilded prison, as fascinating as it was merciless. But if that palace still lives today, it is precisely because of this contradiction. It remains standing while kingdoms fell and revolutions exploded. It has seen centuries, styles, wars, and rebirths pass by. And today, those who visit it can still perceive the echo of those ancient footsteps, of those secrets whispered behind the curtains, of those dreams that faded under the flickering light of a candelabra. Versailles speaks to us. It reminds us how power can enchant, but also how fragile its mask is. Behind every triumph, there is always a shadow, and in that eternal dance between splendor and decadence, Versailles continues to reflect the very heart of humanity, capable of creating wonders, but destined always to confront its own limits. Because ultimately, Versailles is not just the past. It is a warning. It is a mirror. It is the immortal face of time. That's all for today. And could you live among all that filth? Well, I don't think so. Let me know what you think in the comments. See you next time.